Hello, and welcome to my first analysis video on a video game. The Professor Layton franchise is by far one of, if not my favorite video game franchise of all time. The mystery, writing, characters, and puzzles all make up some great games, not to mention the fantastic community. Anyway, let's begin an analysis video where we look at all games, and we'll start with The Curious Village, the Professor's first outing. Professor Layton and the Curious Village was developed by Level 5 and released on the 15th of February 2007. The game was initially going to be tied to Akira Tago's puzzle books, but because of copyright issues, that was impossible, and the game was almost completely redone to become what we now know to be Professor Layton and the Curious Village. This, however, is just the basics, so if you want a more in-depth look at the history of the game, I'd recommend Beta 64's video on the subject. Anyway, let's jump right into the game. So the game starts with you typing your name and Luke sending you the letter. This tells us the point of view that these games are being told from. They're being told from Luke's point of view in a letter form to the player. It's a small detail, but it's interesting, and it'll come into play later. Anyway, after that we get a fully animated cutscene, and I think this is a good time to talk about the presentation of the game. To keep it simple, visually and sound-wise, this game is beautiful. Visuals are all stunning for the DS. Characters and places are all quite detailed well, and it all looks impressive. However, the thing that really makes Professor Layton stand out is the animations. First of all, nearly all areas have background animations which really give all these places life. Next is the actual animated cutscenes, and do I really need to say anything about them? Except that they are some of the best looking cutscenes on the DS and really impressive for the system? I thought not. The music and voice acting is also very good. The actors are all well cast and portray the characters perfectly. The music is also very impressive for the system, really pushing it to its limits. So Professor Layton and Luke are heading to State Mystere to solve the mystery of the Golden Apple, a relic that was mentioned in the will of the now dead Augustus Reinhold. Apparently, whoever finds this Golden Apple will get their hands on the Reinhold fortune. Professor and Luke were sent by Lady Dahlia to help in the search of it. So after solving a puzzle, the two go to State Mystere to go visit Lady Dahlia. We then explore around the village and meet a few, villagers. Overall, this prologue does a really good job of introducing you to the game. The two main characters, Professor Layton and Luke, are shown to be two very different people who both love solving puzzles and work together, as shown in the casting. It seems that Luke very much looks up to Professor Layton and thinks very highly of him, while the professor himself is humble, a dynamic that leads to very funny and interesting conversations. The story is also well set up and gives the player a sense of intrigue, as the concept is very interesting and well built up. The sense of intrigue this game gives the player is one of its biggest strengths. The gameplay mechanics are also well shown up by the few puzzles that there are in the prologue, which give the player a good idea of what's ahead and are of the right difficulty. Anyway, after the prologue, Professor Layton and Luke meet up with Ramin, the servant of the Reinhold Manor, who after testing Professor Layton with a short puzzle, takes the two to the Reinhold Manor, where they meet Matthew. Matthew is another servant of the Reinhold Manor and has quite a calm persona, but through his facial expressions and the things he says, it's clear he doesn't think too highly of his job. Anyway, after inspecting a few interesting photos, Layton and Luke go upstairs to meet Lady Dahlia herself.
Oh? Oh, you must be Professor Layton.
However, with her there are two other people. Those people would be Simon and Gordon Reinhold. Unfortunately, this meeting is quickly disturbed when, due to a loud sound, Lady Dahlia's cat, Claudia, runs away, and out of anger, she tasks Professor Layton to get her back in quite a rude tone. I think this is the perfect time to address a complaint that this series gets often, because I've heard many people complain about Professor Layton because they feel he is too intelligent and not a relatable protagonist. However, this was never an issue for me. Why is that, you ask? Well, simply because Luke exists. In my opinion, I feel Luke was created to balance out the professor's genius, so the player could have something to relate to. We see this with Lady Dahlia as well. The Professor Layton thinks nothing much of Lady Dahlia's rudeness, or at least doesn't show that he does. Luke is very much upset by it, which is most likely how the player would feel at that point. In fact, I believe the purpose of having two characters like this, so different, so that everyone can have something to relate to. This is also why the letter at the start is so important, because it puts you in Luke's perspective, kind of shows you how it's easier to relate with Luke than it is with the Professor. So anyway, the Professor and Luke head off to find Claudia, and it's in this section in which we find out that Luke very much has a thing for animals, and I don't know, it's kind of cute. We also meet a lot of side characters, and man, do I love these side characters. They're all very unique in design and personality, and I find nearly every single one quite entertaining. One of my favorites is Stash and Scarf, a mainstay for the series. His design and personality is just really charming and funny, and it's a good thing that he returns, although there are plenty of others that are worth mentioning. Anyway, the Professor and Luke soon find Claudia and return to the Reinhold Manor, but when they get there, Matthew is worried for some reason, and he takes you upstairs to meet Inspector Charming. Inspector Charming is a mainstay for the series as well, and his personality can be mostly summed up as rude, commanding, and arrogant. Well, for now. There's a lot more to his character than just that, but for now, that much will do. Anyway, Charlie informs Layton and Luke both that Simon Reinhold is more than willing officer than Claudia, but while Layton and Luke had an alibi for the crime, they are still considered suspects in Charming's eyes, and you really can't blame him. It also turns out that Ryan and Henry are missing, so the Professor and Luke decide to head off to find him, but not before finding a peculiar picture. This picture depicts Lady Dahlia holding a newborn baby. When the Professor inquires about this with Lady Dahlia, she responds that she has never had a baby. When asking Matthew about the topic, he says that that person not Lady Dahlia but actually Lady Violet, Augustus Reinhold's former wife. However, the Professor, Luke, and Matthew himself all wonder how they could look so similar. I think now is a good time to talk about the mysteries element. When some small mystery in these games need to be solved, they are added to the mystery tab. When a mystery is solved, it is marked as solved, and by the end of the game, all mysteries get solved. It's a really good system, although it isn't used as well as in this game as it could be. Mainly, instead of slowly solving each mystery bit by bit throughout the entire game, this entry very much has a lot of mysteries getting solved right at the end. This is not a huge deal, but it's kind of lackluster, and I think it could have been done better, and it could make the mystery much more interesting. So anyway, Luke and Layton then go out to find Ramen. While they do not find Ramen, they do find more information about a series of kidnappings. Apparently, many people around this town have been suddenly disappearing, with the only connection between them being that they were sick. This is once again a good example of intriguing the player with clues and foreshadowing without being obvious, one of the game's biggest strengths, as I said before. Unfortunately, the Professor and Luke do not find Raymond until night falls, but even that doesn't stop them from continuing their search.